What if your greatest enemy turned out to be your destined love? In a galaxy torn by war, a human warrior crashes on a forbidden planet, only to lock eyes with a princess he's never met, yet somehow remembers. Their connection defies reason. Their bond was written in the stars long before they were born. But when their love sparks a rebellion against centuries of hatred, they must choose, sacrifice everything, or change the fate of two worlds forever. This opening sets high emotional stakes and mystery, drawing the viewer in with the promise of love, conflict, and cosmic destiny. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Let's move toward wonderful story. The sky over Larandis shimmered with soft golden light, pierced now and then by stars that danced across the endless canvas above. Princess Orenia stood alone in the royal garden, her long cloak brushing against the glowing petals of twilight blossoms. The breeze was warm, carrying with it the scent of moonflowers and silent memories. Around her, the palace shimmered gently, a living structure of glass stone and vinewood, designed by her ancestors to reflect the harmony between nature and the stars. And yet in all its beauty, Orenia felt a quiet sadness echo in her chest. Her life was a string of ceremonies, councils, and duties she could never ignore. To her people, she was strength and grace. But beneath the mask of royalty, she felt the weight of something missing, something that called to her in dreams. She often saw a face she didn't recognize, heard a voice she had never heard, yet it felt real, familiar, as if a part of her had known it long before she was born. Tonight, the dreams felt closer. The stars above seemed to whisper, and the wind stirred restlessly. Then a sound shattered the stillness. A sudden crack of light tore through the sky, a fiery streak plummeting fast toward the cliffs beyond the city. Orenia's eyes widened as she watched the object, clearly a vessel, fall with speed and smoke trailing behind it. A strange sensation gripped her, part fear, part wonder. Without hesitation, she summoned her personal guard and ordered them toward the crash site. The journey to the cliffs was quick, the royal skimmer gliding over the golden fields that surrounded the capital. When they arrived, smoke curled up from shattered rocks and twisted metal. The vessel was nothing like those of her people. It was rough, metallic, charred with battle scars. Parts of it sparked with dying energy, systems clearly overrun by impact. Orenia stepped closer, curiosity overpowering caution. Her guards searched the wreck carefully, calling out in their native tongue. One of them froze, signaling silently. From the shadowed ruins of the ship, a figure emerged, staggering forward. It was a man clothed in scorched armor, his face bloodied but alert. His movements were slow, heavy, but determined. Orenia's breath caught in her throat. His eyes, deep, sharp, familiar, locked with hers. For a moment, the world fell silent. "You," he said, his voice hoarse, filled with disbelief. "You're real." Something in her stirred at the words. A feeling long buried, now rising like a tide. Against her advisor's protests, Orenia ordered that the man be brought back to the palace. He was clearly human, something no Xenian had seen in over a generation, and that alone made him a threat in the eyes of many. But to Orenia, he was more than that. She couldn't explain it, but something about him felt right. The man's name was Kyle. In the days that followed, as he recovered within the palace, Orenia visited him often. At first, their conversations were brief, strained by suspicion, but slowly, he opened up. He told her of battles fought in distant parts, of the galaxy, of friends lost, and of a strange energy that had pulled his ship off course. He had no idea how he had ended up on Larandis. But he remembered something, dreams of her, of a face like hers long before they ever met. Orenia didn't speak of her dreams at first, but she listened. She watched him, the way he carried pain without letting it break him. There was strength in him, yes, but also kindness. She saw him walk in the gardens with quiet awe, study the stars as if searching for answers in their light. He was nothing like the humans the old stories described. The ancient record said humans had once been enemies, warlike, hungry for control. But Kale was not a monster. He was a man shaped by suffering, trying to find meaning again. And the more Orenya learned, the more she felt something connect deep inside her, a pull that grew stronger each day. One night they stood beneath the moonroot trees, their silver leaves rustling softly. Kale reached for her hand, his touch gentle, uncertain. "I don't understand this," he whispered, eyes searching hers. "But I feel like I've always known you, like you're part of me." Orenya felt her heart stutter. She closed, her fingers around his. "I feel it too," she said, her voice almost a breath. The stars above them shimmered, and in that moment, it felt as though they were not two strangers from distant worlds, but two souls finally coming home. Far beyond, the cliffs where they first met, the ancient winds stirred again. Something old had awakened. A story long forgotten was beginning to unfold once more, and neither of them knew just how deeply their fates had already been written in the stars. The morning light filtered gently through the tall crystal windows of the palace, casting soft patterns across the floor where Kyle sat quietly, watching the breeze move the curtains. The days since his arrival had passed in a blur of healing and quiet conversations. The pain in his body had lessened, but the questions in his mind had grown louder. He often found himself staring at the stars, wondering what strange force had brought him here. Lorandis was unlike anything he had ever known. Its people lived in harmony with their world, and their technology blended seamlessly with nature. Yet it was not the beauty of the place that unsettled him. It was the constant sense that he had been here before, in another time, or perhaps in another life. Princess Orenya visited often, and with every meeting, the strange bond between them grew stronger. She felt it too, though she said little at first. It was in the way her eyes lingered on his, or how her voice softened when they spoke alone. They would sit in the gardens late into the evening, sometimes in silence listening to the wind and the songs of the glowing skybirds. There was a peace in their presence together, and a warmth neither of them could explain. One afternoon, the Maiyar palace scholars arrived with urgent news. They had studied the wreckage of Kale's ship and discovered something extraordinary. Hidden among the broken pieces was an ancient object, unlike any they had seen before. It was a glowing crystal sphere, pulsing faintly with energy that matched no human or Lorandian technology. The elders called it a soulstone, a relic from a time when the stars themselves were believed to shape destiny. According to ancient records, these stones could find two souls meant to be together and draw them across space and time until they... And Orenya listened in silence as the scholars explained, her heart racing. The stone had activated the moment Kale's ship approached Lorandis. It had not been an accident. He had been drawn to her. Kyle was silent for a long time after hearing the truth. He looked at the crystal, then at Orenya, and then away toward the horizon. "So you're telling me this was all planned?" he asked, voice low. "That I was never in control of where I ended up?" The scholar said nothing. They had only shared what the records revealed. But Orenya stepped closer, her voice calm. "Maybe it wasn't planned," she said. "Maybe it was guided. There's a difference." Kyle wanted to believe her, but his heart was troubled. He had always lived by his own choices, followed orders when needed, but made decisions based on his own judgment. The idea that something beyond him had decided where he would go and who he would love was unsettling. Still, he could not deny the truth of what he felt. Every time he looked at Orenya, there was a connection, familiar, deep, and peaceful. That night he walked alone in the gardens, trying to make sense of the truth. Orenya found him there, sitting on the edge of a fountain, staring into the water. "You don't have to accept it all right now," she said gently. "I don't expect you to." Kale shook his head. "It's not that I don't feel it," he said. "I do. That's what makes it harder. I've spent my whole life fighting. For survival. For freedom. And now I find out that something else might have written this story before I even lived it. Orenya sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. Maybe destiny isn't about control, she said softly. Maybe it's about recognizing what's already in your heart. Kale looked at her, and for the first time since he arrived, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. He reached out, taking her hand in his. I don't know what comes next, he said. But I want to find out. With you. Their bond deepened in the days that followed. They explored the archives together, learning more about the old Soulstone legends. They spoke of their childhoods, of fears and dreams. Kyle shared stories of Earth and of the soldiers he had fought. Beside, Orenya told him of her world, her burdens as a leader, and the loneliness that came with being seen as more symbol than person. Through it all, they found comfort in one another, like two halves of something once whole. But not everyone in Lorandis shared their wonder. Whispers had begun among the council, quiet worries that Kale was not to be trusted. The elders spoke in private chambers about the dangers of a human at the princess's side. Some believed the Soulstone was not a gift, but a threat. The memories of past wars with humans still lingered in the hearts of the older generation. Kale felt the unease in their stares, and he wondered if he truly belonged here, or if he would always be a stranger under this peaceful sky. Still, Orenya stood by him. She made her position clear to the council. Kale was not an invader, but a symbol of something new, a future shaped not by fear, but by the chance for understanding. He had come not with weapons, but with questions, and now with answers neither of them expected. Somewhere deep in the palace, the Soulstone pulsed quietly, and though the future remained uncertain, the threads of something ancient had begun to weave their way forward once more. The peace that had begun to bloom between Kyle and Orenya was fragile, like a flower opening too early in the cold. Around them, the palace of Lorandis continued to shine with quiet beauty, but the tension in the air had grown thick. Rumors were spreading fast, fueled by fear and old wounds. The people of Lorandis had not forgotten the history of war with humans, and not all of them were ready to believe that Kale was different. In distant systems, human factions still roamed the stars, many refusing to accept peace or change. One such group, known as the Obsidian Reach, had been watching Kale's every move from afar, their hatred of Xenians, Orenya's people, burning hotter than ever. Kale had tried to stay out of politics, focusing instead on healing, learning, and understanding the customs of the world he had fallen into. But his connection to Orenya made that impossible. The more their bond grew, the more eyes turned toward them, some hopeful, others angry. Council meetings became tense, arguments louder. Orenya's strongest opponents called her naive, warning that her closeness to Kale put the entire planet at risk. She stood her ground with quiet strength, defending Kale not only as her chosen companion, but as a symbol of what the future could be. Everything changed when a warning arrived from a nearby outpost. Ships were approaching the outer regions of Lorandis space, their markings clear. The Obsidian Reach had come. Their leader, Commander Valor, had once been a decorated general in the human military. Now he led a splinter group that believed any alliance with alien species was betrayal. His message was direct: return Kyle, or face war. The council was thrown into panic. Some members demanded that Kale be exiled, saying it was the only way to protect their people. Others urged Orenya to retreat, to hide, to preserve the royal line. But neither Kale nor Orenya ran. Together they addressed the council, standing side by side. Kale's voice was calm but firm as he spoke. I didn't come here as an enemy. I didn't ask for this war, but I will not let fear decide our future. If the Obsidian Reach wants a fight, they'll find that Lorandis is not without strength, and I will stand with you, not against you. Orenya looked around the chamber, her eyes steady. This is not about one man. This is about what we believe in. We have a chance to build something new, to show both our people that love and Trust can survive even the deepest scars. I will not turn away from that, and I will not abandon him. Preparations for battle began. The city's shield systems, long dormant, were reactivated. Soldiers trained, scouts were sent to track the approaching fleet. Kale, despite the pain in his side from old injuries, stepped back into a role he knew too well, that of a soldier. But this time it was different. He was not fighting to conquer or to protect his homeland. He was fighting for something he had only recently come to understand. Home was not a place. It was a person. It was Orenya. When the Obsidian Reach fleet arrived, the skies turned dark with ships. Fire lit the heavens, and the people of Lorandis prepared for the worst. But they did not stand alone. Kyle, wearing Lorandian armor forged in the royal foundries, led the defense. His knowledge of human tactics proved invaluable. He moved through the battlefield like a storm, giving orders, rallying troops, protecting the weak. Orenya fought too, wielding the light blade of her ancestors, her presence a beacon of courage to her people. Together they were unstoppable. Two hearts, one purpose. The battle was fierce, lasting through the night and into the early hours of morning. When the dust settled, the Obsidian Reach was broken. Their ships fled into the void, and Vaylor's final message was a snarl of rage and defeat. Kale stood on the damaged landing field, his armor scorched, blood on his face and hands. Around him, Lorandians cheered not just for the victory, but for the man they had once feared. He had fought for them, bled for them, and in doing so he had proven what Orenya had known all along. He was not their enemy. He was their hope. Later that night, when the fires had burned out and the stars had returned to the sky, Kyle and Orenya stood alone in the garden where it had all begun. She took his hand, her fingers trembling. "You didn't have to stay," she said. "You could have gone back." Kale looked at her with tired but peaceful eyes. "There was never anywhere else I belonged. Not anymore." And so, the people of Lorandis began to change, slowly but truly. They no longer saw Kale as a threat, but as a bridge, a living link between worlds. And while peace would not come easily, the first step had been taken. Together, Kale and Orenya had shown what unity could achieve in the face of fear. The echoes of war had not fully faded, but now they were joined by the sound of something stronger. The quiet beat of hope, steady as a heartbeat rising from the ashes of fire. Years passed, and the story of Kale and Orenya became known across many stars. Their victory against the Obsidian Reach had sparked not just peace, but something greater. New vision for the galaxy. Together they helped form the First Accord, a council of different species who believed in unity through dialogue, not war. Orenya, with her calm wisdom and steady voice, became a respected leader across many worlds. Kyle, once a soldier who knew only battle, became a symbol of peace and strength. They traveled from planet to planet, listening, helping, guiding. Where once they had been strangers, now they were seen as one heart, two souls bound by trust, love, and shared purpose. Despite their success, life brought its own quiet challenges. While Orenya's kind aged slowly, Kale's human body began to feel the weight of time. His once powerful stride softened, his sharp movements slower. Yet he still carried that same spark in his eyes, the same stubborn courage that had drawn Orenya to him long ago. She noticed every change, how he took more breaks on long walks, how he slept deeper at night. She never spoke of it, never reminded him of the difference in their years. Instead, she simply stayed by his side, loving him without question, each day a quiet promise. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise from the balcony of their Lorandian home, Kyle reached for her hand. His grip was gentle now, but full of warmth. "There's something I've always wanted to do," he said softly. Orenya looked at him with curiosity. "What is it?" He turned to her, smiling. "I want you to see Earth, the place where I was born. You've heard all my stories, but you've never walked those lands yourself." Orenya hesitated. "Are you sure?" It's been so long. Kyle nodded. That's why. I want you to know the world that made me who I am. And so, they left the silver cities and starlit gardens of Lorandis behind for a time and traveled to Earth. It was different now, more peaceful, shaped by years of learning from other worlds. But the mountains still rose high, the oceans still whispered against the shore, and the skies still opened wide with wonder. They visited quiet forests, where Kyle had once trained as a young soldier. They walked through small towns where laughter echoed down sunlit streets. Aurenya touched Earth's soil with quiet awe, feeling the warmth of the planet that had once known only war, now healing, now whole. And everywhere they went, people greeted them with kindness. To Earth's people, Aurenya was not just a visitor, she was part of the story that had helped bring peace. They saw her not as an outsider, but as a friend. On their final night, Kyle and Aurenya camped beneath an open sky in a wide, grassy field. The stars above were bright and silent, the same stars that had once guided Kyle's ship across space, the same stars that had watched over them when they first met. Kyle lay beside her, his breathing slower now, his face peaceful. Aurenya held his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. She knew time was slipping away, and no power in the universe could stop it. You've given me everything, she whispered. I don't know how to face the years without you. Kyle smiled, his eyes half closed. You won't be without me, he said. I'll be in everything we built, in the lives we touched, and most of all, in you. She pressed her forehead to his, tears shining in her eyes. Sleep, Kyle. I'll be here. He passed quietly under the stars, wrapped in her arms. The next morning, a new light touched the horizon, and the world seemed to pause in respect. Word of Kyle's passing reached Lorandis and beyond. Tributes poured in from every corner of the galaxy. On each world touched by their love, memorials were raised. Songs were sung. Stories passed from parent to child. Kyle, the human warrior, who chose peace, was remembered not for his battles but for his heart. Aurenya returned to Lorandis alone, her presence still strong, though her smile came slower now. In the years that followed, she continued their work, leading, teaching, and shaping the next generation of diplomats, leaders, and dreamers. Her voice still moved crowds, but those who knew her well saw the sadness she carried quietly. One day, the palace healers noticed something strange. Aurenya was aging. Slowly, yes, but clearly. For a Lorandian, it was unusual. They could not explain it, but Aurenya understood. Her life had been forever changed by Kyle. Their bond had been more than love. It had been life itself. On the 50th anniversary of the Accord, she stood before a gathering of species from across the stars. Her voice was softer now, but no, less certain. My husband once told me that real strength is not in fighting, but in choosing a future worth believing in. And he was right. We stand here today because of that belief. Let us carry it forward. Not long after Aurenya's time came, it is said that the night she passed, the twin moons of Lorandis shone brighter than ever before. And when people looked to the sky, they saw a new constellation, 2 stars side by side glowing together in a quiet part of the heavens. It became known as the Lover's Bridge. Children would ask about it, and their parents would say that's where love lives now. And so their story ended, but never truly. Because love, when it is real, doesn't fade. It becomes part of the stars, lighting the way for all who dare to believe that even across great distances, hearts can still find one another.